As we did night number one, it was a great night. The participation was awesome. I appreciate the young men that participated, everyone who listened, everyone who chimed in. It was awesome, and we're just going to keep on continuing from night one, rolling into night two. Tonight, our topic is, and we're going to be caring for something all week. So yesterday was for ourselves. Tonight is for my or our relationships. And as we get into that, everybody in here has some type of relationship with somebody else. It's inevitable. Once you're born into a relationship. So we all have relationships. A part of what our key verse came from, it was read earlier. And in our key verse, it was read from 1 Peter, the 4th chapter, verse number 8. And that verse says, "And above all things, have fervent charity among yourselves, for charity shall cover the multitude of sins." And we're going to break that down. It's going to open up a lot of stuff we're going to get into. So when we look at that, first it says, above all, have fervent. What does the word fervent mean? What does it sound like? Who said that? Somebody said fever, I thought I heard. It sounds like fever. So when you have a fever, what happens to your body? Gets hot. It gets hot. So in describing fervent, it's almost similar to fever. The type of love that God is talking about that we should have is a very deep type of love, almost a passionate type of love that we should be able to feel from someone else and also give to someone else. And as Peter is talking, Peter is just not talking to anybody when he's stating this. He's talking among Christians first. Because as Christians, if we can't love ourselves and love each other, how are we going to love those who are not Christians or not like ourselves? So through everything that we do, we got to first establish the thing that's called love. And as we see love there, love is one of our key words. So when we think of love, there's many different types. And most of them have a Greek kind of word or spelling, but in our language, it means pretty much there's a definition to some of those things. We all heard that word agape before. You heard agape? What is agape love? That's right. Unconditional. Unconditional love is called agape love. And we heard of agape, we heard of eros. Eros is a passionate type of love. And that love, agape is unconditional between the love that God has for us is agape. The love that I would consider that I have for my wife is eros. It's a different type of love. But the love that we're talking about here is not between just one or two people. When we talk about here, and I broke it down, S-T-O-R-G-E, this is the way it's pronounced. Everybody can say that? Store what? G-A-Y. Storge. Storge is one of the types of love that we're talking about. And guess what type of love is that? So if I said that, watch how we break it down. Agape is unconditional, right? Then I said eros is the love that I would have towards my wife. So now I only have one wife. I said the next one, as we talk about relationships, storge would be the love I have for who? Not everybody. Not God. Relationships. God, my wife. There you go. The children. So storge love is the love that you would have for your children or your brothers and sisters. That's that type of love. We're establishing relationships. Remember, that's what we're talking about. Care for my relationships. That love that I have for my wife is not the same love that I would have for my son and my daughter. It's a different type of love. And I have both a son and a daughter. So when we look at that, that type of love would be called storge. That means that I have a certain paternal love where that's my children, and you know how we feel about our children. From young to old, no matter what they do, they're still our children. I can say some stuff about my children, but if somebody else says something about my children, it's going to be a different feeling. Even though it might be true, you know, we feel differently when it comes from somebody else's mouth. Why? Because usually when we say those things, it's coming from love. When somebody else saying it, it might not come from love, but it's just coming from disrespect. So that's why you feel a certain way about it. So another love is the second one here, and it's called philia. When we think of things, and I'm going to make you tell me what it is. You play football. What's one of your favorite teams? What's your favorite team? Don't tell me the Saints. What's your favorite team? That's God. You heard? So what city do they play in? Didn't make this up. His favorite football team is the Eagles. The city the Eagles play in is called Philadelphia. Philadelphia is known as the city of what? Who said it? Somebody said it. City of brotherly love. Philia love means brother, sister type love. Shows you how God worked. I didn't ask him anything before this to give him a hint. That's what I was talking about. It just so happened last night, found out he liked to play football, found out what position he played, find out now that he's a Philadelphia Eagles fan. And the second type of love that we're talking about in relationship is that brotherly type of friendly type of love. Show you how God works. And we look at that and talking about establishing those friendships when we turn to John 15 and 13. And I'm trying to think, it may have been on Sunday before I left Sunday. I think Pastor may have had scripture from there. I'm not sure. But John 15, 13, somebody turn to there in their Bible and read that for me. And watch what it says. The Gospel of John, the 15th chapter, the 13th verse. It says, greater love, so that's our key word, right? One of the key words. Greater love than anyone can have. And matter of fact, in your Bibles, what color is that? So that means who's speaking? Jesus is speaking. Greater love hath no man than this, than to lay down his life or to allow himself to sacrifice himself for who? For his friends. That's that filial love. That's that love that we're talking about. That's that love, and it's just not being something that's said, but Jesus actually showed it by what he did. So yeah, he said that, I love you, but you know we can hear that all the time, but it's different when someone shows you love. I can say I love you, but if I don't show you I love you, then it's a whole different thing. I'm just saying things. So when we look at that key word being love, does anybody know, and this is going to be for those who study the Bible a little bit, does anybody know where I can go into the Bible and find a chapter that's specifically pointing out love? Somebody got to the book, 1 Corinthians, what chapter? 13th chapter. That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly it. 1 Corinthians, the 13th chapter. It's all about love. And sometimes you hear some of these verses read during wedding ceremonies. Sometimes you hear it when people talking about renewing vows. But that verse, those verses there, they're very important. And Paul is speaking to the church at Corinth, and he's trying to get them to understand the difference between saying I love you and then actually showing that I love you. And he says, and I'm not going to read it all, but I'm just going to read a couple of things. They said, though I speak, and this is Paul talking, said, though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not charity. Anywhere you see the word charity, Charity is synonymous to love. Means the same thing. That's what it means. So he says, I can speak in all these things. He said, but if I don't have love, I become as a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. A brass is talking about an instrument. Anybody in the band here? You in the band? I think you play probably percussion though. What you play? You, so that's brass. All right, I played trumpet. So that brass, in there you'll have your baritone, you'll have your trombone, you'll have your trumpet, sometimes you'll have a cornet or a French horn. All those things, when you blow it, it makes what? Not just any sound, but it's gonna make a loud sound. It's gonna make a loud sound. My brother right here play percussion. In percussion, you got your drums, you got your tom-toms, you got your snare, you got your bass. But what is this called? That's that cymbal. So that means the harder I hit this, the louder it sounds. And then it got like these, when you clash them together, they make a loud sound. So that means that I can be saying all kind of stuff to you all, saying it all, but if I'm not saying it out of love, guess what I'm doing? I'm just making noise. Just making noise. That's what Paul is trying to get him to see. And then he says this. He says, though I have the gift of prophecy, which means that God could reveal some things to me and I can say it to you. He said, and I can understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I can remove mountains, and if I don't have love, I'm nothing. All those gifts, they seem so good. And you'll find people that's similar how we was talking about last night of having knowledge but not having wisdom. I got all this stuff, but I don't know what to do with it. It's a difference when you approach somebody and you're trying to get them to realize who God is, and then it's a difference when you try to stick it down their throat and tell people you're going to hell. That's a whole different conversation. You're not going to attract anybody to God if you're just bringing out the negative without trying to have a conversation out of love in a gentle way. This is the things that Paul is saying. He's saying, though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not charity, it profit me nothing. That's similar to if you give somebody something, but then you telling everybody what you give somebody else. You know, I used to be, but I still have a good bit. I'm a collector of shoes. And if I would give somebody a pair of those shoes that I have, and I keep them all in good condition, and then after I give it to them, I'm telling everybody what I done for this person. That is not coming out of love, because I want somebody to pat me on the back, or I want somebody to join me and disparage the person that I give them to, because I'm not trying to help that person. I'm actually hurting them more because now I'm putting a light on them like something's wrong with them, but I'm the one that's giving them something. And we all have been or heard those type of conditions where somebody gives somebody something and now they're telling it. Or what they'll do is that person will come around with you and somebody else, and then you'll point out, look at them shoes I gave you. How you think that makes that other person feel? And if it was love, you don't have to mention it. Matter of fact, Jesus said in his word, he said, when you do your good deed or when you do your alms, he said, don't let one hand know what the other hand's doing. That means that I'm not trying to get any recognition for what I'm doing. My rewards are going to come from God. I'm not trying to get the recognition from people. So he goes a little further. And he says, charity, which is love, he says, suffer it long and is kind. Charity, love, envy it not. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up. That means that charity, love, it don't have an ego. It don't have an ego. Say, don't behave itself unseemly, seek it not her own, is not easily provoked, think it no evil. And it goes further and talk about some other stuff about love. But now I want to get into something that might be a little bit controversial. In 1 Peter, the 4th chapter, verse 8, at the ending of that, I'm going to read the whole thing again. It says, above all things have fervent, and we talked about what fervent is, charity, which we talked about what charity is love, among yourselves. It says, for charity or for love shall cover the multitude of what? Okay. Can someone describe to me what that's actually saying? And it's all right if you don't know or if you're unsure. Now watch this. There's a difference between covering something and canceling something. Jesus is the only person that can cancel sin. Because some people think, well, I'm just going to love and love and love, but I don't have to be repentive of my sin. That's not what it's saying there. Because it didn't say that love is going to cancel sin. It says love is going to what? It's going to cover sin. Now, that's just like sister got cold a little earlier when she walked in here. And to protect her skin from and she sat in the same place again, from that air that was blowing out that vent, she did what to her skin? She covered it. Underneath there, does she still have skin? It didn't remove, just covered it. So that's the same thing when they're talking about love. When we look at love, what people will say, how could we put this into practice where it says love shall cover a multitude of sins? This is a question that people usually ask. It says that after you've messed up and you really love someone, they should do what? They should apologize and they should forgive you. That's what you say. I messed up. I didn't apologize. You should forgive me if you love me. That's true. But I always like to flip things. If you love me, that means you shouldn't have hurt me. So that means that the sin for me being angry, it wouldn't have never existed if you wouldn't have did what you did if you actually loved me. See, people always look at the results, but they don't look at what brought it to those results. To put it in another thing, if I plant an apple tree, what comes off of that apple tree? An apple. Now that apple, if I plant it in good soil, I should get a good apple. Now if I have something wrong with that apple, if it's all wormy and it's decayed and it's hanging there but it's not good, we usually say we have a bad what? Have a bad apple. And then we go and look on the other side of the tree, that apple bad, and all we keep on doing is looking at the apple and saying the apple bad, but we never realize it's not something just wrong with the apple, something is wrong with the root. So that means I got to get all the way back to where it first started. That means I might have to move and pick that tree up and plant it in something else because something is actually affecting the outcome. What we usually look at is just the results, but never we don't want to go back. When I used to work in operations, and anytime there was an incident in operations, we do a couple of things. One, we call something a root cause analysis. What a root cause analysis is, you say, okay, somebody put oil in the river. All right, what happened before somebody put oil in the river? A valve failed. All right, a valve failed. How did that valve fail? That valve failed because it had a packing leak. Okay, why did it have a packing leak? Had a packing leak because somebody didn't pack it in a long time. Okay, why didn't somebody pack it in a long time? Because it wasn't on their list to do. Why wasn't it on their list to do? Because nobody thought that the valve should be packed that much. Okay, now we're getting back to what the root was. Somebody thought and they didn't act upon it. That's the same thing when we're talking about with love and talking about covering a multitude of sins. It covers it because I'm not going to hurt you if I know I can cause you to do something that's not going to be of God. So before I look at what you've done to me, the person on the other side should look at what they're actually doing, and then if they do that, some sins are going to be covered. Remember when God says obedience is better than what? And what he's pretty much saying is the same thing here. That means that you don't have to sacrifice anything to me if you obey me. That means that if you obey me, you won't sin. If you're not sinning, you don't have to sacrifice anything. And that's the same thing of talking about how love will cover a multitude of sins. It's not going to remove it, but it can stop a lot of stuff from happening if I act out of love rather than act out of spite. Because usually that's what happens when somebody's offended or get in their feelings. They want to hurt the offender as much as the offender hurt them. So now, where there could have been love, now it's turned into something else. That's why it's always okay before you react, take a breath, think about it before you say or do anything. And sometimes, and we had a conversation yesterday at work, and somebody was saying, it was talking about emotional intelligence. And they said, well, how can you show emotional intelligence when somebody sends you an email? When you're not talking to them, but you know this email that they sent, they got the capital letters and they got the exclamation points, and you realize you feel some kind of way getting that email. And the first thing we want to do, oh, this is what you want to say? We start typing up some stuff, and we respond right back. Okay, we're going to go tit for tat. But sometimes just let it sit there. Just let it sit there and don't answer. Because now you feel a certain rage because you feel like this person didn't disrespect you. And you know how we get when we feel disrespected. Oh, you done said this. Oh, now I'm going to say this. But sometimes what that starts is now you don't know what that person was going through or what was going on. And they may not have meant it the way that you took it. But once it's sent, it is what it is. Same thing as a text message. You cannot feel emotions in a text. And sometimes somebody might send a text and they mean no harm, but the way those words came to you and the way that you read it and understood it, oh, they want some smoke. So now you looking for some words to say, and sometimes you got to cover them words with something else that what you really want to say, but now it has started something. So now we got to be the initial person to think, as a Christian, before I say something that can cause some problems, let me think about it. Because now I have to show love in everything that I do. So, all right, we got enough about love. The next one, or next key word, is fellowship. So remember, we're talking about care for my relationships. We have to show love, so now we're talking about fellowship. So, is there a difference between these two words? Relationship, fellowship. Is it the same thing? Is this different? What do you think? It's different. Why is different? And not just the spelling. I need you to go deeper. Why is different? You say it's different, so I want you to expound on that. Watch this. Watch this. I'm going to talk to my little cousins back here. Now, let me see your grandmother's in the back, so you can be honest. So, do any of you all have a boyfriend? Y'all answer that too quick. Have you ever had a boyfriend? No boyfriend. Okay. Now, we still going to stay there. We're going to stay there. So, if you have a boyfriend, or if you've had a boyfriend, and hopefully y'all telling me the truth, you and that boyfriend, once you all are boyfriend and girlfriend, you have a what? Have a relationship. When things start to go bad, guess what? You still have a relationship. It's not a good one, but it's still a relationship. The thing about a relationship is a relationship could be good or it could be bad. A fellowship can't. I'm about to give you an example. A relationship Sometimes it's chosen, as I asked them if they have a boyfriend or had a boyfriend. Sometimes it can be chosen, but sometimes you're put into relationships where, hey, I didn't choose it, but just the way it is. I have siblings, and because I have siblings, I have a relationship with them. I didn't choose my siblings, but I do have to have a relationship with them. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But it's still a relationship. A fellowship is a lot different. When we come to service, because we are all Christians, we have a relationship. But when we come to service and we're coming to do the same thing, which is to worship God, I ain't coming to see what sister so-and-so got on or what brother so-and-so got on. I ain't coming to see who showed up and who didn't show up. I ain't coming to see who taking communion, who not taking communion. When you come for the same purpose, that's a fellowship. So the thing that breaks off in the thing that's separate or different from a relationship in a relationship could be good or bad. A fellowship can only be good because a fellowship, when you're doing it, you're coming together for the same purpose and the same cause. Because I can't help being in relationships. If I'm here in St. Luke, it got a lot of people in here in St. Luke. We all in St. Luke, so we got a familiar relationship with the church. But a fellowship is completely different. If I fellowship with someone, that means we're doing the same thing at the same time, just like my brother right here says that he's an Eagles fan. So a couple of years ago when the Eagles was in the Super Bowl, and if we were sitting down watching those Eagles play and we both are rooting for the Eagles, guess what? It's not a relationship, now it's a fellowship. Because we're in the same place, rooting for the same team, and wanting that team to win, it's a fellowship. A fellowship can't be bad if we are there for the same reason. Just like on Friday nights at the stadium, which is cool there, but the one I grew up in is a little bit up the road. That was the real St. James. And when you was there on a Friday night, you had cars on the levee, you had cars by Grunyard, and some of y'all don't even know what Grunyard is. But you had cars all over the place because the parish came together to fellowship for one purpose. Everybody wanted them Wildcats to win. It was all good. Everybody wanted the Wildcats to win. That's what a fellowship does. When you sit down, and let me go get in the scripture. Acts 2:1. I'm going to read it for you. Acts 2:1. Watch what happens. They were given some instruction from Jesus. And Jesus told them to stay in Jerusalem until you are indwelled with power from on high. And watch what happens. On Acts, the second chapter, verse 1, it says, and when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with what? One accord, but not just one accord. They were in what? That's togetherness. That's a fellowship. That's a fellowship. But remember, prior to this, when Jesus had the Last Supper, it was a fellowship for some, but it wasn't a fellowship for all. Because Jesus says that one of you will what? Will betray me. So that means, yeah, Jesus and Judas had a relationship, but you ever had somebody betray you? You ever had that person that you thought was your friend, but then you found out they was talking behind you, all the information you was giving them, they was giving that information to somebody else, but you trusted them. That's betrayal. So it's still a relationship. It ain't good, but it's not a fellowship. Most of the time we think about and hear that word fellowship, you'll hear it after a service where they say we're going to get together in the annex or in the kitchen and we're going to have a what type of meal? A fellowship meal. Because that's the easiest way people fellowship. You put food in front of people, ain't nobody worrying about nothing else. You put a snack in front of somebody, everybody thinking about food. They're thinking about eating. And they're coming together on one accord, not to do anything else but eat. Now, while they're eating, it's a fellowship. When they finish eating, it might turn into a relationship. You know why? Because somebody got that free stuff in them, but somebody's still going to find something to complain about. The food was good, but it could have been a little hotter. The food was warm enough, but it could have been seasoned a little bit more. So that's right. They should have served us a little bit more. They were kind of stingy. So now the fellowship is broken, and now it goes into the relationship. You can have a relationship without having a fellowship, but you can't have fellowship without relationship. And the main thing that we're talking about here, we want to make sure I don't want to have a relationship with God. I want to have a fellowship with God. I don't want to have just a relationship with Jesus. I want to have fellowship with Jesus. That means that where I am, Jesus can come. Where Jesus is, that's where I want to go. That means that's that one accordness, that's that togetherness that we look for to make sure that we are taking care and caring for our relationships. Because if the fellowship is good, it's going to take care of the relationship. That's just like having a good child. If you have a good child and that child is making the honor roll, ain't causing no trouble, got a good head on their shoulders, doing what they're supposed to do around home, you're not just going to have a good relationship with that child, but you're going to have a good fellowship with that child. You can talk to them. You can understand where they're at. You're going to try to help them out a little bit more. But then you got a knucklehead that's always in trouble, that's disrespecting you, that don't come home when they're supposed to come home, that's in the community causing problems for everybody else. The relationship is there because it's still your child. But that fellowship is broken because y'all not on the same accord. And most of the time you can't trust them. And it's nothing like the thing that'll break up a fellowship and definitely make a relationship bad is somebody who's not telling the truth. Don't ever surround yourself with yes people. That means that somebody's always saying yeah. Don't ever do that. Because when that happens, you'll never know what the truth is if you surround yourself around yes people. And it's got an example of that. And the example of that is somebody that's running the country right now. It's a lot of yes people. Should we go to war here? Yeah, if you want to do it. What we going to get out of it? We ain't getting nothing out of it. I just want to do it. Got to have somebody bring some common sense to it. But that's what it is. So now we done covered fellowship. So now hospitality. What is hospitality? We all have been hospitable before. Yeah, y'all all right? All these things are making sense. What else y'all said? Huh? Warm welcome, yes? As we look at that word hospitality, we often think about it when we visit someone. And like you said, that warm welcome, the way they treat us, the way they greet us, the kindness that's shown by someone else to another, that's hospitality. You don't have to have somebody in your house to be hospitable. Sometimes when, I'm show you how that, and I'm pretty sure we all have done that or seen it. We're in the store, and the line might be long, but you're in that line and you got two items, one in each hand. The person in front of you got a basket full of items, and that person don't know you, you don't know them, but they look back at you, see what you got, and what they tell you. That's being hospitable. Because they're saying that even though you got behind me, I was here first, since you got less than me, go ahead. I have even seen sometimes, and I've been involved in it sometimes, where somebody's in front of me, and they realize who I am, and they say, that's all you got? Put it with my stuff. I'm going to pay for it. No, you ain't got to do it. No, I have to do it. No, you don't have to do it. Yes, I do. And what they're saying is, my blessing is coming from blessing you, so put it with my stuff and I'm just going to pay for it. It's not to say that you can't pay for it, but I feel this is something that I should do. That's being hospitable. And we all should try to do that sometime. Young men, because it's not taught that often anymore. Say if this church was packed, All the seats are taken. And whether it be a young or old, a woman walks in, don't have anywhere to sit. What should you do? Huh? You offer her that seat. And it's not because you're attracted to her, or it's because it's a respect thing. That's showing hospitality. That's showing not just respect as a person or as a young person, but as a young man. When you start working and doing things like that, people notice it. And when people notice things like that, it's not just the people, but God notices that also. And that's what we're supposed to do. Sometimes we don't know how to do things like that because we're not taught, because those type of things aren't taught anymore. Those type of things that when you get your girlfriend and say y'all walking in New Orleans and the street is here and then you got her here and then you here. It's not the way it's supposed to go. You're supposed to put yourself in dangerous way and make sure that she's safe. They don't say these things or do these things anymore. And I walk in the street now and you see the woman there, the man here, and cars and stuff passing, and she pushing him on the side, trying to protect him. It's not the way it's supposed to go. But the men don't know that. You're supposed to take care of. You're supposed to do those things. That even that hospitality is not just coming because that's somebody you care for, but that's the way you're supposed to be. And like I say, when you do those things, not just other people notice it, but the main thing is that God notices it. So when we get to hospitality, watch what happens here. The Gospel of Luke. The Gospel of Luke, 10th chapter. And watch how this hospitality kicks in. I'm going to cover a couple of the verses, but not all of them. 10th chapter of Luke, I'm going to start at verse number 30. And we says, and Jesus answering said, a certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves. And we all know what thieves are, right? Say, which stripped him of his raiment. That means they took his clothes. I don't know what kind of clothes he had on, but they took them. So he might have had some as the young kids now, they wear they chrome hearts, they have all their jewelry and all this type of stuff. They took it from him. So they stripped him of his clothes. And they ain't just stripped him of his clothes, but they beat him up. See, and they wounded him. And departed, leaving him, they put a beating on him. He was robbed. He was robbed. It is by force. And they say, by chance, there came down a certain what? A priest. That's something, boy, a priest. So you know, if this man all beaten up and stuff, if the priest passed by, what the priest going to do? Or what the priest should do? Should give him some help, huh? Check on him. Watch what happens. So that priest, and a certain priest that way, and when he saw him, passed on the other side. So that means he ain't just passed him and just kept on going. He saw what happened. Man, let me get on this side. I don't want no parts of it. That's a priest. Now, back then, all priests, and I don't want to confuse anybody, all priests were Levites, but all Levites were not priests. That means in order to be a priest, you had to be a Levite, but just because you were a Levite, that didn't make that you were a priest. That's kind of confusing. Show that. For a person to be a father, they have to be a what? Have to be a male, have to be a man. But all men are not fathers. You understand? So that's what was going on now. So that means that they're connected to knowing who a father and what a father is. So now you got the main person, which is a priest. Went on the other side. Verse 32, it says, and likewise a Levite, when was at the place, came and looked on him, and guess what he did? Now he went to him and looked at him, and then he went on the other side. It says, but a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and he saw him, and he did what? Had compassion on him. That's that hospitality. Now, understanding the thing that is trying to be driven home now, Samaritans and Jews, they didn't get along. The Israelites, and that's how they talk about priests and the Levite. It's your own people. The own people, they went on the other side. A Samaritan was a half-breed of Samaria and Israel, so they were considered not one or the other. That's just like if you see somebody, how we look at people, we know we judge people if they're real bright skinned. They're real bright skinned, you don't consider them to be all black, but then if they go on the other side, and with the whites, it was like, well, you're not all white either. So you're in the middle, and you have a certain feeling towards it. It's mixed. So that's what a Samaritan was. It was a mixed breed. But look what the Samaritan did. Had compassion on him. But he just didn't have compassion on him. It shows you how he was showing that love and how he created a fellowship. So this person was down and out. So he went to him, bound up his wounds. Remember, he was all beat up. So that means the wounds that he had, he bandaged him up. Pouring in oil and wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn, and took care of him. So he didn't just look at him and pass by, but he helped him up, cleaned up his wounds. He, who had a horse or whatever the beast was he was riding on, a camel or whatever it was, put the wounded person on his beast. He walked, found a place for a rest, and they're talking about INN is just like we would think today as a motel or a hotel, something like that. Brought him to a place, and then he took care of him. He didn't stop there, look what he does. It says, and on the morrow, which means tomorrow, he said when he departed, he took out 2 pence, got some money now, and he gave it to the host. That would be the innkeeper. That would be the person, like if you go to a hotel, when you got to check in, the person that was checking him in, he gave him money and said unto him, take care of him. And whatsoever thou spendest more will not come again. So when he told me, he said, start a tab. If the money I give him, he use it all, whatever he needs, I want you to give it to him. And when I return, I'm going to pay that tab. That's hospitality. It's not only hospitality, but he was showing fellowship, because now this man had made a relationship with the person that he picked up, but he also had made a relationship with the innkeeper, telling the innkeeper, I want you to take care of him, and whatever he owes you, I will pay it when I come back. Ultimately, what he was showing was love. So as we see our topic for the day, care for my relationships, he didn't know a person, but he took care of it. And look at what Jesus says. He says, now, which now of these 3 thinkest thou was neighbor unto him that fell among the thieves? Which one, that Levite, that priest, or the Samaritan? And when he says neighbor, he's talking about who was showing love towards him. If we think about neighbor as the person next to him, all 3 of them was near him. 2 of them went their way. 1 of them was actually neighborly and took care of the person that couldn't take care of themselves. So when we see this, that's what we're talking about, that hospitality there. And that's what we as Christians supposed to be. Sometimes we get to the point and we only want to help people that look like us. That's not pleasing to God. Sometimes it got to be, I see people, if you're attracted to somebody, you're going to treat them differently because you like them. If you're not attracted to that person, you're going to treat them bad. You're like, well, they're going to figure it out. I don't need to help them. You know, if you see that pretty girl side the road and she needs her tire changed, or it don't matter how hot it is, you're going to get out there and help them change that tire. Yeah, no matter how hot or whether it's raining, no matter what the conditions are, if you attract to somebody, you see them in distress, you're going to stop. But would you stop if that's somebody you're not attracted to? You should. That's right. You should. If you're going to stop for one, stop for them all. There shouldn't be a difference there because of the way that you feel. So when we look at that, hospitality, we can't choose who we help. If we are in the ability and in the right mind state to help someone, it don't matter who it is, we should give them that help. That's how we show care for our relationships. Because understand, We can do church every Sunday. We can do Bible class every Tuesday. We do midweek service every Wednesday. And I'm going back to what Paul was saying in 1 Corinthians 13. We can do Sunday school on Sunday. Do all those things, but then we treat everybody around us like dogs. Or it's good that you're in the service, but what are you doing with what you're getting out of the service? You can do all that stuff, but if you can't show love for your brother or your sister, you're not doing anything. The only way that we can serve God is guess how? Somebody just said it. Say it a little louder. That's right, by serving each other. We show God how much we love him by how much we show we love each other. So here, and we almost finished, we almost there. As relationships, I want us to show us something here in the 27th proverb. So Proverbs 27. Just a little something to add on. I'm going to show you how things change and how things should change as you mature. And we all should mature. We all should grow. That's something that we all should do. So here I'm just going to read a few things here. 27th chapter of Proverbs. I'm just going to read a few things here. It says, boast not thyself of the morrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. Let another man praise thee, and not thy own mouth, a stranger, and not thy own lips. So it's talking about there, it's talking about being humble, but it's also talking about establishing relationships. When we are in school, growing up, when we are in class, we want to prove that we are the smartest in the class, right? We want to learn a lot of stuff. We want people to know that we are smart. We want to show off our smartness. When we start to mature, that should flip, but some people don't know how to flip it. When I was in school, I wanted to be considered smart, and I was decently smart. But now, some people, they feel threatened by those that know more than them. As I've grown and I've matured, I never want to be the smartest person in the room anymore. You know why? If I'm the smartest person in every room I go in, I will never learn anything else. Never. I don't want to be. I want to be in the room where people are smarter than me. Because if somebody's smarter than me, guess what? If I establish a relationship with them, if that relationship turns into a fellowship with them, what they have or what they know, they can share that with me. And now that doesn't make me dumber, but it makes me smarter. And that's something as when I start working in these circles and I'm working with people from different countries, I'm working with people from different races, working with people from different religions. And when I got there, at first, when I start to get a new promotion, I get into this and I don't know what I'm doing. And I always go home and tell my wife, I said, right now I feel inadequate because everybody knows more than me. So now I got to be a sponge and start to understand everything that everybody else is doing. That way I can start talking and saying more and understanding more, because now it's a learning thing. And for me, it's a challenge. And I love a challenge. Because when you are the smartest person in the room, you can say anything and everybody going to believe it. That's just the way it goes. Everybody going to believe it. But when you have that learner mindset, that means that you can establish some relationships and you can learn some things, and most of the stuff you're going to learn is going to help you out. And it doesn't mean that you can only learn it. Sometimes we have that thing where if I'm a certain age, I can't learn from somebody younger than me. Yes, you can. Have to open yourself up to it. Yes, you can. Some people say, well, a woman can't teach me anything if I'm a man. Yes, she can. Got to open yourself up to it. Somebody said, if I'm an adult, a child can't teach me anything. I know it all. No, you don't. And to establish some more relationships and actually get into fellowships, it's a lot you can learn from somebody else. And one of the lessons, I don't think it's tomorrow, I think it's the day after. And that's going to be something where it's talking about finances. And it's talking about care for finances. And that's going to be an interesting conversation. God's willing, if we get to that day and we have that class, it's going to be interesting. And I say it's going to be interesting because for us to understand certain things of finances in the spiritual realm to God and for our family, you have to learn. Some people don't learn because they don't want somebody to think, well, I know how to take care of my stuff. I know how to take care of my business. There ain't none of their business. And it may not be. But understand the things that you learn financially can start setting you up where your money is making money for you. You don't have to work as hard, but you got to get it right the wrong people. You have to establish the right relationships and get into certain fellowships where now you getting some real good understanding of how you can do things, and it's not as hard as you might have thought it was going to be. But we don't know that. Nobody here born with that silver spoon in their mouth. None of us in here born or had inherited millions of dollars. Not what we have. But just because we didn't born that way, it doesn't mean that when we leave here, we can't do something for those that's coming behind us. Because we have to learn those things. But we're going to get into that if we get into that later on. But we here, and we're talking about establishing those relationships. Our key words, love. We talk about a couple of different types of love. That love that we should have for each other, as my brother who's a Philadelphia Eagles fan, that filial love, that brotherly type love that we should have for each other. And then that Storgate type love. And remember that Storgate type love is what? The love between who? The parent and the children. Parent and the children, that Storgate type love. And then we talked about that fellowship. And we know what fellowship is now. It's different from a relationship, but fellowship means that we have the same accord. We're trying to do the same thing. Just like we was talking about my brother here, is that Philadelphia Eagles fan. When they won and beat Kansas City, I was actually rooting for them because Mahomes had won too much. I like Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts is disrespected a good bit. So I wanted Jalen Hurts to get him a ring, and he did. And matter of fact, he played real well. He outplayed Patrick Mahomes. So he deserved it, and a bunch of foolishness going on with the Philadelphia Eagles right now, but I think Jalen gonna get it back to what it's supposed to be, and I'm not an Eagles fan. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, but I like Jalen Hurts. So we look at that. The city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, comes from that word philia. So when we look now, that was a fellowship thing going on. He was wherever he was watching the game. I was where I was watching the game, most likely at my dad's house. But that fellowship was there because we were rooting for the same team at the same time, and then that team won. Hopefully Buffalo will get him one sooner or later. Huh? You about to make a bad you about to make a bad relationship. Hospitality. Hospitality is just taking care of someone else when you have the ability to do so. It doesn't matter how much money you got. It doesn't matter how smart you are. It's just seeing a need, and it could be something as simple, like I said, you see that person with a couple of items in their hand, and you there in line, you have every right to check out first, but sometimes it's just nice to be nice. Showing that kindness, hey, you just got those items, just go right ahead. And, oh, thank you, and they just go ahead and check out, and then that be that. Showing that hospitality, did that hurt you for them extra 2 minutes that you were in line? Not at all. Not at all. It's not going to hurt you at all. And now you done made somebody else's day just by being nice. And that's something when somebody's and I love random acts of kindness. I love when that happens. Something happened that I never had happen a couple of years ago. And as I close, somebody showed a certain type of hospitality where I was going through Cane's. Anybody eat Cane's in here? I was going through the line at Cane's, and I made my order, and the person in front of me They had a pay chain going on. I don't know if anybody been involved in one of those. And what a pay chain is somebody starts, they pay for their food, and then they say, whoever's behind me, whatever their tab is, I'm going to pay for that too. So now, when I pulled up, person say, oh, your food already paid for. Like, no, it's not. I ain't paid for this yet. Say, yeah, the person in front of you already paid for yours. He says, so would you want to take what your charge is and pay for the person behind you? I said, well, of course, because I was already thinking about paying for my own food, and I don't know what the cost is, probably around the same thing. They got them a combo or something like that. I said, yeah, so charge what, if mine already free, whoever's behind me, I'll pay for it. And then that thing keep on going like that. It happened, somebody started around Christmas one time. And I said, I've never been involved in this, but it's nice. Because I was going to pay for it anyway, but somebody paid twice, and then it just started, well, pay for this person, pay for this person. So the person that started it, they started it and they got the double charge, and then whoever's going to be the end of it, that means they ain't going to have to pay at all. And did that little $10 hurt anything? It sure didn't, because I was already going to eat. But it just shows you that somebody had a mind and just started that hospitality thing, and then everybody was coming through the drive-thru. It was working perfectly. But it costs nothing to be hospitable. And it's awesome when you can start those relationships and have those relationships like that. So as the other class that came in, I done spoke enough. Any questions or any comments? Everybody understood everything this evening? Traffic? Uh-huh. Yes. Now, I might have something to say if I do that and they don't acknowledge me. And I shouldn't, because I did it because I wanted them to do it. But I do have my thoughts. If I let somebody who done cut me off or he's trying to get in and then they don't acknowledge and say, hey, or thank you or something like that, or put their hand up, I'm going to feel a certain way. I ain't going to lie. I'm going to feel a certain way. And the first thing that comes to my mind is I shouldn't have let you go. And I'm wrong, because it don't matter if I did it or not. If I did it, I shouldn't be looking for an acknowledgement from them. If I did it because I wanted to do it. But it's just something about people that being kind when you do something kind for them. And then like, well, the next person trying to get in, they're going to have a hard time. They might not get in. But that's how we're supposed to be. It usually don't hurt you at all to be hospitable. It's just something that you have to do. And when you do that, the relationship that you're building and the fellowship that you're building, it might not be with that other person, but God sees it. And that's who you want to get close to. And God see that act of kindness. God see what you're doing. God seeing that you're not doing it for everybody else to see, or you're going around and say, look what I did. I remember in that Cane's line, I don't know who started it, but nobody put on the billboard, I started giving people free food at Cane's, and I want people to acknowledge me. That person drove off, and nobody knew who he was or who she was. But it started, and it kept on going for that night. I don't know how long it lasted. I know the next time I went, ain't nobody was doing it. But for that day, somebody had an act of kindness. They were showing hospitality. And that's how we're supposed to be as Christians. It's not the big things, but it's the little things. It's the little things. So any other questions or comments?
I looked at it. Talk about them not nobody's teaching. Nobody is. I thought about it. And if we can get something that can be, God give me the whole thought young, you would teach them what it is, them the etiquette of man, what it is. Then you touch on that, when you touch on that, I walk. Nobody's teaching. Up.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And there's a responsibility there to share what you know. and it may not look or feel a certain way when you're young because you usually trying to fit in with what everybody else is doing. But then, pretty much after high school, some of those people you'll never see them again. And now you got to represent yourself as yourself in the world where what you do, what you say, what you look like is going to be judged. It ain't saying that it's fair or it's right, but it's the real world. You will be judged. And I always want the young men, especially the young black men, to understand who you are and know how to walk in a room and demand respect. And there's a certain way to do it. I'm in a group of probably 20 people. I'm the only African American in that group. I don't feel shame walking in there and being myself. Not at all. Not at all. Because I'm confident in who God made me to be. And then they can't have anything to say, well, I wonder why he wears his pants like that. Or I wonder why his hair is like that. And the hair is a cultural thing. If I had hair a certain way, I would wear it proudly. And you got to stand behind it. I ain't doing it because it's a fad or because everybody else doing it. Be proud and have an understanding of who you are and what you do, who you are. Just as Samson had a lot of hair. That hair give him strength. We have different cultures that do different things with their hair, do different things in the way that they wear it. But the only thing that I would say in everything that you do, always be respectable. Respect is something that's earned. And if you are respectable, people will respect you in return. So any other questions or comments? I appreciate you all again. Love the participation. Love everyone that participated, had something to say, answered a question, and I like to have that interactiveness. It's not just me getting up here and saying things, and as you see, I wasn't in this book too much because I like to flow the way the class flows. My young cousins back there, I liked y'all answers. Just make sure they're true and they stay that way. And we ain't gonna tell your grandmother, but just make sure they stay that way. Amen. And she don't know what's going on.
What's our keyword? Uh-huh. What else? Okay. And what else? Reflection. What we said, relationship is excellent. All right. And so what's reflection? All right. And respect. What we say respect is? Being what to others. All right. And so Cowboy Carl, he taught us about the way we treat others is the way we treat God. And if we don't treat others right, we are not treating who right? God. Okay, and to have a godly relationship with others, we have to remember the what? The golden rule. And what's the golden rule? Okay, to treat what? Treat others the way? All right, the way we want to be treated. All right. So, and what's the greatest commandment? To do what? All right, to love others. Okay, I want to hear y'all. Okay. All right. So if people don't love you, what you supposed to do? Still love them. Okay. So when you disrespect people, you are also disrespecting who? God. You're also disrespecting God. What should be sprayed? Love. All right. Every morning, Cowboy Carl look in his mirror, and when he look in his mirror, he sees his reflection. So he always says something positive about himself. So in the back, we made our mirrors, and we're gonna look in our mirrors, and we're gonna say something positive about ourselves. All right, let's go, Lincoln. Look in your mirror, look in your mirror. All right, Joy. Janaya. I am beautiful. Axel. All right, now look at somebody and tell somebody something nice, something positive about themselves. Axel. Janaya. Handsome. All right. All right, very good. Okay. So the lesson was about what? Caring for what?
God and allow us to